3 weeks to go. Just 21 days remain in the federal election campaign. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Deeper than the headlines.
The answers you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
3 weeks from today, it's Election Day in Canada. And for two of the party leaders, the campaign has shifted to the West Coast. The leader of the Liberal Party, Mark Carney, is in the BC capital of Victoria. He'll be making an announcement shortly. He had a meeting today with the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby. Later tonight, Carney will hold a rally in Richmond. At a campaign event in Victoria last night, Carney again suggested that Canada's relationship with the United States will never be the same again.
That the world has changed, and that our old relationship with the United States is over. Is over. And the world that I lived through my whole life, open global trading system, sponsored by the United States, that world is over. Okay? This is a big change. These are a big series of changes.
During his remarks, Mark Carney also seemed to praise Ontario Premier Doug Ford and ridicule the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith.
We are fighting the Americans. We are fighting the Americans everywhere they understand. We're fighting the Americans in the pocketbook. We have retaliatory tariffs on them. We just hit them again in the auto sector. We're fighting them on Fox News, which is what they understand. We're sending Doug Ford onto Fox News to show them that we're not messing around up here. And we're going to send Danielle next. Maybe we won't send her. Maybe we won't send Danielle. No, maybe we won't. We won't send Danielle. We're going to keep her. No, keep her. No, that's a bad idea. Forget. Strike that. Strike that. Just ignore that back there.
That wasn't the only shot Carney took at Premier Smith. He joked that Smith must have turned his microphone off while he was saying he wants to make Canada a clean energy superpower.
We are going to build ourselves into a... Don't take it away. I was just saying clean. That was Danielle. She was coming in. A clean energy superpower.
As for the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, he's making remarks in Terrace, British Columbia. The Poilievre team held another rally last night in Penticton. Another big crowd turned out. Poilievre claimed the Conservative Party is the only party with a plan to stand up to Donald Trump.
Build a new economic fortress that is strong enough to resist any interference or tariffs from the Americans, that allows Canadians to make their own stuff, trade with each other, build homes for their youth, and restore our strength to stand on our own 2 feet and stand up against the Americans.
Poilievre also reminisced about a video that went viral of Poilievre eating an apple while being questioned by a local news reporter.
So if you have an economy with 10 apples and $10, I don't know apples. Do you have apples around here? The best apples in the world, eh? Nice Ambrosios. Do you know that I actually enjoyed an apple in the Okanagan at one point? Oh my goodness. I never got any royalty or anything for the extra exposure we got for the apples here. Oh my goodness. Lots of fun.
Later today, the Poilievre campaign will head to Edmonton, Alberta for what promises to be one of his largest rallies yet. We're getting word that Poilievre will be introduced by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. As for the New Democrats, Jagmeet Singh is in Toronto today. He has been touting his party's plan for more affordable housing, which includes things like national rent control.
Our plan is to end fixed-term leases. We want to end rent evictions and dem evictions. We want to strengthen tenant unions to be able to negotiate for their tenants with the landlords. We want to end the collusion that's going on where large corporate landlords are colluding to jack up rent. You'll notice that rents go up across the boards. It's because there's collusion going on. They're jacking up the rents together. And the way we're going to do this is, if any province or municipality wants federal investments, federal funds to build homes, they have to put in place laws that protect renters.
The polls seem to be all over the place. Most of them give the edge to the Liberals. An Ipsos poll says the Liberals have opened up a 12-point lead over the Conservatives, and yet a poll released yesterday from Abacus Data says the Liberals and Conservatives are tied, up with the Liberals with the edge, with leads in Ontario, Quebec, and Atlantic Canada. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. And this is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Well, it has been a wild ride so far for the financial markets today. The North American markets opened deep in the red, and then a fake news post on social media reporting that there would be a 90-day pause on tariffs shocked the markets back to life. They rallied only to tumble again just a few minutes later after the White House said there was no truth to the report. It would seem volatility is the theme today, building on the bearish mood that started right after Trump's Liberation Day tariffs were announced. Overseas markets saw some of their worst declines in decades. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange had its worst day in 28 years, and there were steep losses for markets in the UK, France, and Germany. But despite all the stock market volatility, there's no indication the U.S. President, Donald Trump, is rethinking things. Trump spent the weekend golfing in Florida, then headed back to Washington on Air Force One, and while airborne, continued to defend his tariff policy.
But I do want to solve the deficit problem that we have with China, with the European Union, and other nations. And they're going to have to do that. And if they want to talk about that, I'm open to talking. But otherwise, why would I want to talk? And as you know, because of the tariffs, we have $7 trillion already committed to be invested in the United States, building auto plants, building chip companies, and all sorts of companies are coming into our country at levels that we've never seen before. Biden had nothing coming in. This was a dead country with Biden. He didn't know what he was doing, and that's now been proven at least.
Trump also claimed that leaders from all over the world have been calling him, trying to do trade deals.
European, Asian, from all over the world, they're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that, because to me a deficit is a loss. We're going to have surpluses, or we're at worst going to be breaking even. But China would be the worst in the group, because the deficit is so big and it's not sustainable. And you know, I was elected on this. This was one of the biggest reasons I got elected, was exactly because of this. And we're going to put tariffs, we've already put them on. It's not a question of we will. We're going to put them on. And those tariffs next year will make us $1 trillion. In addition to the $1 trillion, thousands of companies are going to relocate back into the United States.
Some members of Trump's cabinet were making the rounds of the Sunday political talk shows in the United States. The U.S. Commerce Secretary, Wall Street billionaire Howard Lutnick, told Face the Nation on CBS that the tariffs are in place because of a national security issue.
I mean, we don't make medicine in this country anymore. We don't make ships. We don't have enough steel and aluminum to fight a battle, right? All our semiconductors are made overseas, so every button we press when we try to start our car or even use our microwave, these are all semiconductors. They're all made elsewhere. We've got to start to protect ourselves, and we've got to stop having all the countries of the world ripping us off. We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, and the rest of the world has a surplus with us. They're earning our money. They're taking our money. Right. And Donald Trump has seen this, and he's going to stop it.
Over on NBC's Meet the Press, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who made a fortune in hedge funds, said the Trump administration isn't looking at the day-to-day swings in the markets.
This is an adjustment process. What we saw with President Reagan when he brought down the great inflation and we got past the Carter malaise, that there was some choppiness at that time, but he held the course, and we're going to hold the course. And this has been years in the building, years in the making. This unsustainable system, our trading partners have taken advantage of us. We can see that through the large surpluses. We can see this through the large budget deficits. And also, Chris, this is a national security problem, which we saw during COVID. We saw during COVID that optimal supply chains are not resilient. And what I could say is the only good outcome from COVID is it was a beta test for what would happen if our supply chains got broken. And President Trump has decided that we cannot be at risk like that.
Trump, of course, has many critics, among them Democratic Senator Adam Schiff.
I hope and pray we stay out of recession, but if we head into a recession, it will be the Trump recession. He will completely own it. This is a completely self-destructive economic act that he's engaged in. And it's not just the tariffs. It's also the freezing of funds, the firing of people, the alienation of our allies. In California, I'm hearing from farmers who still haven't recovered market share from the tariffs during the first Trump administration. I'm hearing from people in the tourist industry. You have people from other countries now who don't want to come here, most particularly Canadians. I'm hearing from others, small business people who are telling me that Canadians are saying, don't send us any more of your products. In fact, we're going to send you back what you've already sent us.
So taking a look at the markets right now, again, a very volatile day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, though, is down 868 points, so a loss of better than 2% on the day, about 2.2%. The S&P 500 is down 85 points right now. That's a loss of 1.7% on the day. The NASDAQ is down 255 points, a lot better than Friday. It's down about 1.5% right now. As for the Toronto Stock Market main index, the TSX down 2% today. It's staring at a loss of 480 points right now. Gold, which has performed well so far this year, the kind of the classic hedge against uncertainty, has now dropped below $3,000 US an ounce. Just gave that up moments ago. $29.95 US an ounce. The Canadian dollar down slightly on the day, 70.23 cents US. Bitcoin down today more than $4,000 and below $80,000 US, 78,100 for Bitcoin. Big story in the markets is the price of oil, which is down another $1.20 right now for West Texas Intermediate, down about 2% on the day. It had traded below $60 briefly at one point today. $60.79 US a barrel for oil. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
So we had expected dueling media events today from the dueling leaders in the election campaign, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and Liberal leader Mark Carney. Maybe they worked something out together between the campaigns so they wouldn't stomp all over each other and attract media attention that they so desperately want. Here with 3 weeks to go in the election campaign. So Mark Carney's event, which was scheduled for noon Eastern time, has yet to get underway. He's in Victoria, British Columbia. And it appears as though it may be some environmental-related announcement because there is a Liberal sign in front of Mr. Carney's microphone it says, "Protecting Canada," and it seems to be a park-like setting for Mr. Carney. Meantime, Mr. Poilievre is standing at an LNG-type facility in Terrace, British Columbia, and he's been making remarks for a few minutes. His announcement today is about a one-and-done approach to resource project approvals if he becomes prime minister, the Conservatives form government, and he has been taking some reporters' questions. Let's listen here.
Thank you very much. Chuck Chang with the Canadian Press. Mr. Polyev, how quickly do you think these fast-track programs can go ahead, considering that there's also provincial and municipal jurisdiction? And are you confident that the proper environmental and First Nation Indigenous consultations on these projects have been done in order to facilitate these fast tracks? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your question. I didn't get your name.
Chuck Chang, Canadian
Chuck.
Press.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Yes, a very important question. My goal is to bring First Nations, municipalities, and provinces all under the same tent. Let's sit down and put together the checklist of all the things we need to approve, put it in one office that is accountable to all levels of government, and let the company then apply to the project right there. I'm convinced we can get these projects approved in as little as 6 months. We should be able to. That's what they do in other countries. Let me give you an example. In Germany, they built an LNG import terminal from concept to completion in 178 days. That's not the approval process. That was approval and construction. That's how things happen in the rest of the world. In Canada, we're in a parallel universe here, where it takes 14, 15 years to go through the bureaucracy. In the rest of the world, things are getting done in months, not years. And that's what we're going to have to do. We need to move at the speed of business to bring our jobs home and become self-reliant. Because after the lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime and a falling economy under America's thumb, we can't afford a Liberal fourth term. We need a new Conservative government that will green-light projects, axe taxes, and bring our jobs home for a change.
En français.
Merci beaucoup. Une très bonne question. Moi, je crois qu'on peut le faire dans 6 mois, mais au maximum 1 an. Il faut reconnaître qu'ailleurs au monde, ça se fait.
Just as he repeats the same thing in French, that's Pierre Poilievre in Terrace, British Columbia. We would bring you some of Mark Carney's event scheduled to begin any moment now in Victoria, British Columbia. We may pop into that once the Liberal leader begins his remarks. He did have a meeting with the BC Premier David Eby today, maybe running a little bit behind because of that. Our Newsday panel is coming up 3 weeks from today is the election. It'll all be over 3 weeks from today. So we'll talk about it with our Newsday panelists right after the news. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio. The Newsday panel.
Yeah, time for the Newsday panel here on a Monday. Chris Day back with us, Senior Vice President at Hill & Knowlton. How are you?
I'm well, sir.
Good day. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Neil Brody is a longtime Conservative strategist. Welcome back, Neil. Good to hear from you.
Hey, Rob. How are you doing today?
Just fine. Stock market aside.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about, 2 weeks down, 3 weeks from today is the election campaign. Now, some of the polls show a widening lead for the Liberals. Others show a very close race. But with the Liberals enjoying the lead in Atlantic Canada, in Quebec, in Ontario, we must ask the two of you, who are of the more conservative persuasion, what is a realistic path to victory for the Conservative Party right now? Neil, what would you say?
Well, looking through the polls that have come out in the last week or so, going down into the numbers, the polling still shows a remarkable desire for change amongst the electorate. The polling still shows about 50% of the population says affordability is their number one concern. Other deeper dives into it show that Conservative supporters have made up their mind, their supporters entrenched, and Liberal votes are soft, and Liberals are still looking for more information before making up their mind. So I think if Mr. Poilievre continues to be consistent on the points that he's already raised, that he's campaigning on, that he's been campaigning on for the last 2 years, essentially, lower taxes, tough on crime, looking to bring in assistance for workers affected by the news of the day, which is Mr. Trump's tariffs. I think he can continue to chip away at the softening Liberal numbers. But I've seen two polls, last week's Innovative Research poll and this week's Nanos polls. They have undecided voters anywhere between 20% of the electorate and 40% of the electorate. Now, I don't put too much stock on in individual polls, but one thing not being talked about is how many undecided voters are still out there looking for somewhere to land their vote. So Mr. Poilievre, continue on the road that he's been on. It was a winner for 2 years. The new shiny pony came in, Mr. Carney, but I think he can win back voters with his straightforward message.
Okay. What would you say? What is a realistic path to victory for the Conservative Party? Chris Day.
So, I mean, I agree with you, Rob, that, normally in a normal situation, Atlantic numbers like the ones we're seeing, Quebec numbers like the ones we're seeing in some polls, Ontario numbers similarly, would normally be, that's the ball game, right? But we're 3 weeks out from this thing. A lot has changed in the last 3 weeks, and I think a lot more is going to change before Election Day. I think that there are, to Neil's point, cost of living and affordability is only going to be an even greater concern with all of the uncertainty and tumult that we're seeing in stock markets and other places. That is rich and fertile territory for Mr. Poilievre and the Conservative team. I would also note, along with the undecided point that Neil has made very presciently, that some of the tracking of leader favorability is not playing in the Liberals' favor at the moment right now. Mr. Poilievre's favorability has gone up in this campaign, and Mr. Carney's has come down. And so it's almost to the point of margin of error where people are still trying to make up their mind about him as a politician and a potential prime minister or leader going forward. And Mr. Poilievre, for his part, has a lot of stuff baked in. But I think some people are saying, well, maybe I should look at him again or give him the benefit of the doubt because, A, he's speaking my language, both literally and figuratively, which if you're in Quebec and in parts of Eastern Ontario, in parts of like New Brunswick and Atlantic Canada, Francophones aren't seeing Mr. Carney able to communicate very well in their language. And I think that's going to play in some really interesting ways in the next couple of weeks, including
they seem to be looking past that with all due respect, Chris. Well, they seem to be looking past that right now.
I think that's going to be really informative.
Maybe. Yeah, and Mr. Poilievre is going to do Tout le monde en parle later this week, I gather, which is a very popular talk show in Quebec, which, I mean, maybe the most popular talk show in Quebec. So that could go either way. It could blow up for him, or it could, work wonders for him. Just on the stock market turmoil, I wanted to ask you guys if this perhaps presented another maybe natural advantage to Mark Carney, given his gravitas in financial circles, former governor of the Bank of Canada, former governor of the Bank of England, ex of Wall Street. Does all of this uncertainty in the financial markets, down 1,000 points, down 2,000 points, then up, hundreds of points only to fall again on fake news. I mean, it's wild and crazy stuff. Does that offer maybe a natural advantage to somebody like Mark Carney in an election campaign to have all of this financial uncertainty happening right now? We'll ask our panelists that when we come back.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Okay, again, let's listen to Mark Carney at his event, his opening remarks in Victoria. Go ahead, David.
This is a beautiful spot on a volatile day, and I'm not talking about the weather. The world woke up to some pretty dramatic moves, and they're ongoing in financial markets. So before I get to the main subject at hand, I want to spend a few moments talking about what that means for us in Canada. And I think the first observation is what's going on is a direct consequence of President Trump's unjustified tariffs against Canada, tariffs that were first levied on Canada.
Panel, here with Neil Brody, longtime conservative strategist, once worked in the Harper PMO, Chris Day, not Winston Wilmot, Hill and Knowlton, pardon me. Hill and Knowlton, I'm still getting used to that, Chris. I hope you'll forgive me. Hill and Knowlton. Senior Vice President there. Does Mark Carney, Neil, have a kind of a natural advantage when it comes to this particular issue? Financial uncertainty, concerns about the stock markets over Pierre Poilievre, who quite simply doesn't have the same background. What do you think?
I don't think there's any particular advantage he has over Mr. Poilievre. Mr. Poilievre has been in government for 20 years, understands the levers that you can pull in that situation. Mr. Carney has been in a central bank, taking policy directions from politicians. So I don't know that you can stand back and say he has the ability to do this. But I would also say Mr. Carney can't have it both ways. His value proposition to Canadians has been that he's the only one who can stand up to President Trump and equally guide Canada through these uncertain times. Well, let's see it. He's done nothing except promise to do something. As you said, he's not shy about putting on his prime minister's hat. He's had that hat on for over a month, and we still see the value of stocks plummeting and job losses from uncertainty in the economy. And his only response so far has been to amend some of the rules for unemployment insurance. So if he's so good at this, let's see it.
Okay. Chris, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, last week he was touting his skills as a negotiator and the fact that he got a call with the president, 2.5 weeks after winning the leadership race. And since then, $6 trillion and counting of global capitalization has just vanished. He had the economic record piece is really interesting because he had a weird misspeak last week when he was asked about the track record during the global financial crisis, and he claimed to have been able to keep Canada out of recession when there's clearly video evidence of him being at committee admitting that we'd gone into recession. So that was a weird misread or mistelling of historical events. He also, I would point out, really in 2020 misread the situation and the impact and severity of inflation. So, there's a couple of really big misses or misspeaks, if you will, on this, not to take away from any of his CV credentials, but, that count, when you compound that and his party's record over the last 9 years of financial and economic management, 87% of his cabinet remains to be the same people as Justin Trudeau's cabinet. So these are the people that Mr. Carney has surrounded himself with. He's chosen these folks, and they're the same people that have got us into the mess. Now they're asking to be the ones to fix it. It's
okay.
Canadians will make their assessment in the next 3 weeks.
Okay, I want to play these clips. Well, David's going to play these clips. Mark Carney in Victoria last night. I get it. It's a partisan rally. But I just want to know what you think about how Mark Carney, who is the prime minister, how he treated the Alberta premier. He seems to be ridiculing the Alberta premier, Danielle Smith, in these remarks to a partisan crowd. I get that, but let's listen to this here.
We are fighting the Americans. We are fighting the Americans everywhere they understand. We're fighting the Americans in the pocketbook. We have retaliatory tariffs on them. We just hit them again in the auto sector. We're fighting them on Fox News, which is what they understand. We're sending Doug Ford onto Fox News to show them that we're not messing around up here. And we're going to send Danielle next. Maybe we won't send her. Maybe we'll send Danielle. No, maybe we won't. We won't send Danielle. We're going to keep her. No, keep her. No, it's a bad idea. Forget. Strike that. Just ignore that. Okay, all right. So I mentioned that to David this morning. David said it was like catnip for liberals, I guess. But what did I... Come on, I don't think it's fair. What I think it's bad form. What do you think, Neil? What do you think?
Well, the CBC put out what could be described as a hit piece on Mark Carney this past weekend about his father's profession back in the 60s. And I don't know that any conservative politician picked that up and ran with it, which would be very easy to do. This idea that you're if you're a liberal, you're supposed to be on Team Canada, but if you're a conservative, you're working against Canadians' interests. That Mr. Carney seems to be pushing as a line in this clip that you just ran is not helpful when we are all trying to push together to get the Canadian car started again, if I can say it like that. I can't, it speaks to his inexperience in political circles. Is he going to go down to talk to President Trump and make jokes about Trump and conservatives in the United States? I don't think that's going to be particularly helpful. You have to understand when you can push the accelerator and push the brake, and there was absolutely no reason to do that last night.
Okay, I want your take on that, Chris, but we'll have to wait until we get back. I'm Rob Snow. It's our Newsday panel, and this is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
We're back. Chris Day is here from Hill and Knowlton. Neil Brody, longtime conservative strategist. Chris, I wanted to get your take again. Let's play the shorter clip because Mark Carney actually went after Danielle Smith twice last night. Kind of used her as a piñata last night during an event in Victoria. But let's play this here.
We are going to build ourselves into a... Don't take it away. I was just saying clean. That was Danielle. She was coming in. A clean energy superpower.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of that, Chris?
I think it's important that we all remind ourselves that the premiers have been thrust into this position of being international diplomats because of a vacuum of leadership created by the Liberals and their own housekeeping bits. Prime Minister leaving, new one being selected at a really critical moment, but also because of 4 years, I would argue, of diplomatic malpractice where they didn't actually maintain relationships with senior Republicans and people around President Trump, who, guess what, he's back, right? And you have to deal with it. I would perhaps take issue with some of what Premier Smith has been doing in the last little while and ask her to please ratchet down the national unity stuff. But credit where credit is due to her and to other premiers who have had the fortitude to go on places like Fox News and certain podcasts that are really well listened to and have the conversations with people and go on channels that the president and those around him actually listen to try and persuade them to take a different path. The Canadian foreign minister, Canadian diplomats in Washington have not struck up the relationships that they've needed to keep us out of this situation. The premiers are trying to fill a gap, and we all need to be rowing together better than we have in the last few months.
Okay. So look, Pierre Poilievre is in Edmonton tonight, and there are news reports now he's going to be introduced by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. What kind of crowd do you think is going to come out in Edmonton for Pierre Poilievre? I mean, we've seen crowds, 4,000, 5,000 in some of these places, but this is Alberta. I mean, this might be, Neil, the biggest, maybe this is the biggest political rally we'll ever see, Neil.
Listen, we've talked about this in past shows, Rob. The conservative supporters are committed. They're committed to change. They've seen what a Liberal government can do over 10 years to the country, to its detriment. They're committed. And let's not forget, Edmonton is a bit of a battleground zone with 3 ridings that may not go conservative. I think in the last election there was a Liberal or 2 and an NDP or 2 or 3 seats. So it's a battleground, and I don't know if there's anything else to do on a Monday night in Edmonton. So it's be the hottest draw in town.
Not until the playoffs start. Anyway, okay. I mean, I saw a Twitter video today of a guy showing the building. I mean, it's this massive building. I don't know how much of it is going to be set aside for this rally, but they could probably fill every square inch of it. It's going to be a big one, I think, Chris.
I've heard that they had to move it to a bigger space, and I've heard from friends in Edmonton that they're going to either be there or stay well away because of the crowd sizes. So,
okay, all right. Well, we'll see what the week brings in Canadian politics in the federal election campaign. I thank you again for your time. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Have a good day,
Chris
Rob.
Day, Senior Vice President at Hill Knowlton. Neil Brody, longtime conservative strategist. Talkback is coming up right after the news on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And we're going to talk about the federal election campaign. Maybe the market turmoil will work its way into the conversation as well. But the main topic is the election campaign. 2 weeks down. 3 weeks to go. 3 weeks from today. Can you believe it? 3 weeks from today. Election day. It'll fly by. We are happy to keep it pretty wide open today as long as we keep the main topic, the election. What do you think of the campaign so far? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. That's our call-in line. We do have some more specific questions that we would like to ask you about trends that seem to be emerging when you dig a little deeper into the polls. One of them, for example, is the gender divide. You know, last week we talked about the regional divide. Conservatives doing well in Western Canada, Liberals doing well in Eastern Canada. We're hoping today that we could explore the gender divide in more detail with your help, such as why won't more women vote for Pierre Poilievre? Do you have any ideas? Any women who may be listening right now, give me a call, 1-833-668-2577. What is it about Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party that it is failing to appeal to any great degree to women in Canada? How do you explain that? What do you think is going on there? Do you have any ideas? And if you do, we would love to hear them. I mean, Angus Reid did a survey last week, showed the Liberals enjoy this huge lead over the Conservatives among women voters, especially younger women voters. Among women voters between the ages of 18 and 34, 23-point lead for the Liberals over the Conservatives. For women between the ages of 34 and 54 is a little better for the Conservatives, but still the Liberals had a 7-point lead. And as for women over the age of 55, they're overwhelmingly planning to vote Liberal, according to these polls. Liberals with a 27-point lead. Women over the age of 55. What's going on there, do you think? Any women out there listening who could explain this to me, a 50-something man? Love to hear from you. For the Conservatives, they seem to be stronger with men, but men in a specific age group, what I would call, working age men, 35 to 54-year-old men. The Conservatives enjoy about a 6-point lead over the Liberals with men of that particular age. Used to be a bigger lead than that. And younger men, they were breaking for the Conservatives, but now more of them are telling pollsters, if they are indeed speaking to pollsters, they're more likely to vote Liberal. Men under the age of 35. The Conservatives have been doing very well with men that age, but not so much anymore. And older men over the age of 55, they seem to be breaking for the Liberals right now as well, although it's still close. Liberal lead of about 4 points or so. Again, all according to Angus Reid. But one of the real stories so far, 2 weeks into this election campaign and with 3 weeks to go, Conservative Party weak with women. And in our leader-driven politics, I mean, that means Pierre Poilievre has a woman problem. If these polls are right, more women are going to vote for the Liberals than the Conservatives. What do you think is going on there? 1-833-668-2577. Help us understand what's going on, in your own opinion. We also want to know a little bit more about the generational divide in this election, because there's a lot that's been written, a lot's been said in the last few weeks about this, and we'd like to get your take on that too. Narrative goes something like this: the boomers are breaking for the liberals. The boomers are breaking for the liberals because the boomers have it all. They don't want to rock the boat. The boomers have it all. They want to keep it all. Younger Canadians more open to voting for the Conservative Party. It's been argued because Pierre Poilievre gives them hope and speaks to their concerns, especially when it comes to issues like housing affordability and precarious employment. But the boomers, and to a certain extent Gen Xers, people of my age, are content with the way things are. They see Mark Carney as a steady hand, the best person to keep things the way they are. Whereas more younger Canadians would prefer someone like Poilievre because he is speaking a language they can understand about the hardships of trying to save up for a home, or about working 2 jobs, or the feeling that you're just not getting ahead. When he uses lines, restoring Canada's promise, or Canada is broken, whatever line he uses. So that's another question that we have for you today on the generational divide. If it's true that the boomers are breaking for the liberals, why is that the case, do you think? While younger Canadians are more open to hearing the conservative message, what do you think is happening there? It's kind of a novel thing in our politics. So let's get the conversation started. It's another week of Talkback. Our phone lines are open right now. We'd love to hear from you today. Our call-in line is 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. You should save that number in your phone, 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that to our call screener, Andrea, and we will make your call a priority. Again, 1-833-668-2577, Monday, and we're back at it. Talking politics again, here on Talkback on News Radio. What do you think of the campaign so far? Why do women voters prefer the Liberals over the Conservatives? Why can't Poilievre get more women to vote for him? Why do older Canadians, the 55-plus crowd, why do they seem to prefer the Liberals? Why are the boomers breaking for the Liberals? 1-833-668-2577. We can come at it from any number of directions today. We're welcome. We're willing to follow your lead. Let's go to Stephen up first. First-time caller, I understand it. Stephen out in Calgary. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, Rob. How are you today?
I'm good. Stephen, good to hear from you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on those polling numbers you were talking about there before the break, Rob.
Yeah, sure.
Seems very, very Eastern Canada-centric to me. And, I think maybe if you did all of those polls again out here in the West, you'd get totally different numbers. And the reason I'm saying that, you're talking about the boomers. I'm a boomer, 73-year-old retired oil and gas worker. All my friends are boomers. None of us would vote Liberal. So I think the polls are very much skewed to Eastern Canada. And, with the women comment and all that stuff, I just don't believe it. I don't believe them at all.
Okay, you don't believe it. Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think they're all, maybe a bigger spread of people, or come out West and do one out here. And then let's hear the numbers. I think it's wrong the way they do them.
Okay. Anything else,
I could be
Stephen?
Wrong. That's been known to happen before, too.
Well, yeah, sure. So have I, Stephen, on multiple occasions. In fact, when it comes to predicting the outcome of elections, my track record is terrible. But,
yeah.
But I'm not in the polling business. These people are, they're experts in what they do. But, nevertheless, this is what they say they're seeing out there. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
More women than men are going to vote Liberal, and older people prefer the Liberals right now. Nonsense, eh? Nonsense. Okay. All right.
Maybe down in the Quebec City Windsor corridor, Rob.
Right.
Where all the Liberals live, and 50% of the population exists, and
we
kind of we kowtow to that. That's one of our electoral problems, is that place. But get the polling outside of that and see what it comes up. That's what I think.
Okay. Sure thing. How are you feeling about the election campaign so far? And where I assume you're going to vote for the Conservatives, right?
Absolutely. I'm not
Yeah.
feeling very.
I mean, are you
comfortable right now.
confident? Are you nervous? How would you say you're
Nervous.
feeling? You're nervous, are you?
I can't imagine
Okay.
having another 4 years of Liberal government in here. And you know, coming from the point of view of being a conservative, I'm all about Energy East and all those kind of things, you know, and
Yeah.
having them all squashed again for another 4
Yeah.
years, like that's terrifying. You know, we
Okay. Well, let me ask you
we
one
just
more
need to-
question then, just along those lines, and then I'll let you go. Preston Manning, in a column in the Globe and Mail last week, said a vote for the Liberals is a vote for Western separation. Do you believe that?
No, I don't
No?
think Western separation. I don't think any separation is actually going to happen in Canada. It's a little
Okay.
too difficult.
All right.
But
Too difficult.
independence,
Okay.
yeah, we'll go for the bigger independence for sure.
Independence. Okay.
Quebec
All right.
style Alberta independence.
Quebec style Alberta independence. Well, okay. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Fair enough. Okay, Stephen,
That's
good to
right.
hear from you. Stephen's a nervous conservative supporter in Calgary. Let's go to Michael in Cape Breton. Hello, Michael.
How you doing, Rob?
Good, Michael. Good to hear from you.
I was interested in those comments you played from Kearney last night. I got a little bit of wisdom for everybody out there. Beware
Okay.
the lion that smiles. He's not
Okay.
going to suffer no repercussions from recession or depression. If that happens, by the way, the stock market and the chaos Trump got the world in right now, he won't suffer. He got his fortune hid away in a private fund. He won't have to worry about nothing. I don't trust the man, and I'm a good judge of character. And besides that, I like being the son of a seventh son. And you said the reason why the young women won't vote for
The conservatives, yeah, for Polyev. Yeah, yeah.
Number one, he's cut and clean now. I'm not conservative, but he's cut and clean. He's married, and he's not a bad boy. And they're hockey moms, they're hockey dads, and they do not tune into the issues. The only time you hear them is when they want something. And that was the tragedy of the last two generations. They were called the gimme generation, and they were given everything. They didn't work for it, and that's why they got that attitude. And
All right. Well, I'm assuming, Michael, I don't want to guess your age, Michael. I don't want to guess your age, but I assume you're over 55. I assume you're over 55, right?
Oh, yes, I'm only a young man.
Right.
I won't be around much longer, Rob. That's
Okay. Why do you think the older crowd is preferring the Liberals?
Because my mother always said to us, and there were 17 in my family, she said, there's no fool like an old fool. And I always remember that. And that's done with a good judgment of politics and being well informed.
All right. There you go. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So a call from Eastern Nova Scotia, a call from Alberta, and that's it. We're on our way. Talking about the election campaign as the third week begins, and there are 3 weeks to go. Curtis up next in Calgary. Hi, Curtis. Hi, Curtis.
Hi there.
Hi, Curtis.
I don't profess to be a political junkie. I don't comment on it too much because I don't really have enough knowledge to do so. But I agree with the first caller. Alberta's never going to get a vote. Let's face it. Even if Liberals lose the popular vote or whatever you want to call it, they still win. So, I mean, the East apparently is the only zone that wins and apparently the only zone that matters or province. Alberta's an oil town. The East feels, oil's dirty and dead. Of course, until they receive a royalty handout of billions of dollars, it's okay, which is ridiculous. I think age-wise or generation-wise, the older generations tend to want to, cruise through life and know that there's some stability in keeping their money in the bank account. The non-entrepreneur, sort of to speak, And the entrepreneur person that wants to go out and be creative, that's the people that are voting for the Conservatives.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, and the people looking for a bit of a handout. Okay, well, you know what? I know I'm going to make X amount of money if I sit on my ass. You know, that's the Liberals.
Okay.
It's look where we are.
Right.
With the Liberals. Who
Yeah.
the hell would want more of that? Right? The reason we've got nowhere is because they're in.
Okay.
It's
so they might be in again. They might be in again, Curtis.
Zero.
Curtis, they might be in again. 3 weeks from now, we might all be watching television, and they could be not only in, but with a big majority government. How do you feel about that?
Well, you know what? I find it to be almost communist. If somebody wants to make
Almost communist.
That government wants to make sure everyone's making $70,000 a year, and they know that they're taking in the right amount of taxes. And a guy who's busting his ass for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year gets penalized over and over and over for hard work. And that's not right either. I get it. Not everyone's wealthy. But why do we want everyone to be less successful?
Okay. All right. Curtis, got to run. But look, you call anytime. Don't be shy about talking politics. I can't say I agree with everything you say, but I appreciate your point of view. Rand, up next, also in Alberta. Rand. Hi there, Rand.
Hi, Rob.
Hi.
I want to comment on why more women are voting Liberal in Canada or supporting the Liberals in the polls.
Inform me.
And
Go ahead.
I think it equates to Trump and J.D. Vance's stance on they both seem to be pushing a nationwide abortion. And in the States, there's been countless examples of women being raped by various people and having to go out of state to get an abortion or to get medical care.
Okay.
And it seems like Canadian women, most of them, from what I hear.
The concern about the abortion situation in the United States, especially kind of post Roe v. Wade and the decision from the Supreme Court there, there may be a fear about that migrating north, right?
It seems like most women think that
maybe
Carney will back their rights more than Poilievre.
Maybe.
For whatever reason they do that. I'm not sure, but I think the reason that they're voting Liberal is they think it will give them more protection for a woman's own body.
Okay, yeah. I will not discount that fear. Thank you for your call, Rand, in Alberta today. You can join the discussion as well. I mean, we're talking about the campaign generally, but in more specifics, gender divide, generational divide, 1-833-668-2577. Have your say on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
3 weeks out from Election Day, what do you think of it so far? Why do women voters prefer the Liberals over the Conservatives? That's what the polls are saying. Why are older Canadians breaking for the Liberals? Polls also say that. Let me take just a quick rundown through what the polls say as of today, Monday, the 7th day of April. 2 full weeks behind us of campaigning, and the election day 28 days from now. Liaison, 6-point lead for the Liberals. Liberals 45, Conservatives 39, NDP at 7. My gosh, 7. Nanos also gives the edge to the Liberals, 5-point lead. Liberals 43, Conservatives 38, NDP at 8. Main Street Research has a tighter race, 3-point lead for the Liberals. Liberals 42, Conservatives 39, NDP at 7. Ipsos, I don't know if this is an outlier. Maybe it's an outlier, but it has a big lead for the Liberals. Daryl Bricker at Ipsos, 12-point lead. 12-point lead. Liberals 46, Conservatives 34. NDP at 6. Meantime, Abacus data says it's a tie. Yeah, I know. Make it make sense, right? One polling firm says it's a 12-point lead. Another polling firm says it's a tie. I know both pollsters. I admire them both very much. They've both been on my radio shows many times over many years. You can't help but wonder, are you even talking to the same people? Abacus, 39, Conservatives 39, NDP at 11. You see, you could also talk about the NDP. One poll has them at 11, another poll has them at 6. But that's kind of where things stand right now with some of the big polling firms. Jennifer in Calgary up next on Talkback. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey there.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, so yeah, I just wanted to comment really quick. I'm not sure who exactly they're reaching out to for these polls.
Okay.
But to me, it seems like it's just the people that are maybe available to talk. I just, as a 37-year-old woman and a mom of 3, I'm drowning and I have no time. So
what do you mean you're
drowning?
Drowning in just being busy, you mean? Or
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Drowning
yeah, okay.
with, work and just trying to raise a family with these times. Things are much different than, 10 years ago. And
right.
no one's contacted me for a poll, none of my friends. I don't know if it's just because we're busy and we're not answering the phone, but maybe I'm also a little bit biased because I'm here in Alberta as well. But
right.
all of my friends, coworkers, we're all voting blue. So I just don't see that.
Okay. So 3 weeks to go, 2 weeks gone. As somebody who plans to vote for the Conservatives, I mean, you hear these polling numbers. I mean, how do you feel? Are you confident? Are you nervous? Are you on edge? Are you worried? Are you
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it feels good when the numbers were ahead in the polls, but again,
sure.
I think I distrust a little bit of the mainstream media. I know there are some good, polling companies out there, but I don't know that I trust them all.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it makes you a little bit nervous, but I feel confident, at least here in Alberta, at least here in our riding, that we're going to be blue. For the rest of the country, I would hope that, they would come to their senses.
Or come to your senses, okay.
Maybe
okay.
just show up on voting
Do you have any comment? Because there's been lots of ink spilled on this, even in recent days. I mean, I've seen headlines, Polyev has a woman problem. Polyev has a woman problem. Any thoughts on that?
Again, as a mom of 3, I don't see how you could have a woman problem when you're really just trying to protect families and trying to, I don't know, just give us some hope that, we can step back maybe into a little bit of a mother role and not just working all the time to get not any farther ahead.
Okay. What about this idea older people prefer the Liberals? What do you think might be happening there?
Again, maybe they're just the ones answering the phone, but I know there's a lot of
maybe
people
they're the ones answering the phone. Okay. But when they answer the phone, they say they like the Liberals,
Right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't see that. I know there's a lot of people who feel really bad for their kids and for their grandkids watching them struggle and are really worried about how they're going to be able to afford a house and how they're even paying rent today, considering it's already doubled. So I don't see that.
Okay. Jennifer, thank you for your call. Good to hear from you today. Appreciate it. Let's go to Halifax. Jordan in Halifax today. Hi, Jordan.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Jordan. Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
I would like to echo what your last caller said. I don't know anybody down here in Halifax, Nova Scotia that's voting Liberal. I work in construction. There's no Liberal, but I don't know how we're majority blue province, but yet the Liberals, it must be PEI, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland that are leading that chair because we're blue in Nova Scotia.
Well, I mean, you've got a PC government in Nova Scotia, but I mean, the polls are saying the Liberals are going to do pretty well in Nova Scotia.
Not a chance. I don't see.
Not a chance? No?
No, they don't poll me.
No?
They don't poll anybody I know.
Yeah.
I know some boomers that were Liberals that are now voting PC because of what has been done. So I don't know. It feels the same as what just happened a few months ago down south of the border. The polls did all this stuff, and then sure enough, they were wrong. I don't know how many people
They said it
poll.
was, I remember, I was on the radio on U.S. election night, and even up until the polls were closing, they were too close to call, right? It was too close to call. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, maybe down in Atlantic Canada, maybe it's PEI, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland.
And Newfoundland, right?
I can't see Nova Scotia favoring the Liberals from
Really?
my. Not
You think the
from here.
polls are that way off that they're missing something? That what you're hearing on the ground when you talk to people, you don't think it's happening for the Liberals down there the way we're being told it's happening.
Well, I work in construction, so I talk to a lot of the workers there and I don't know anybody that's voting Liberal in that. Like I said, my friend's father, he's Liberal all his whole life, and he's not voting Liberal this year. I know a few other people like that. I don't know. I see more conservative signs down here than the Liberal signs. I just don't know who they poll because
Interesting.
I've never gotten a
All
call
right.
myself. So
Yeah. Okay, Jordan, thank you. Good to hear from you. All right. Jordan says we're missing something. He's not the first to say that. Love to hear from you. Share your thoughts on the election campaign. Chris in Halifax. Hello, Chris.
Hey,
Hi,
Rob,
Chris.
Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome, Chris.
Probably going to sound like a broken record based on the last call with Halifax. I have to agree from a business world perspective. I know liberals that were diehard liberals that are they're female in their late 60s that have switched to conservative, which is unfathomable to me, to knowing the person a lot of my life. The other thing I've done as well is I've just kind of ask people, I'm old school, I'm almost 50. I don't really like asking people their politics because I was raised in the days when you didn't really talk that.
When you didn't do that. Yeah.
But I've been asking a lot of the younger kids, like when I say kids, like say like 25 to 30, 35, early 30s. And very much to my surprise here in Halifax, they're all conservative. And the last thing that I noticed, this was just on Saturday, the peninsula of Halifax, of course, is mostly, government, education and healthcare, and of course the military. And predominantly over the years, during an election, you would see a sea of red and a sea of orange. I've seen more conservative signs in this peninsula and in particular the south end of Halifax. That's a key sign that goes against all of the polling. I believe that the polling is either they're cherry picking or it's skewed. I think what we're going to see is the same as 2016 in the U.S. and 2024, and that's just passed. We're going to see. I think you're going to see a majority blue government because nothing that I'm hearing from the polls. 100%. I don't. Even my parents are diehard liberals. They've completely turned blue. Discussed it with the last couple of years and whatnot. So, I think the word on the street or the murmur on the street, I think that's far more legitimate than what we're being told by the polls. And I believe that a lot of people feel the polls are cherry picking them and trying to manipulate the narrative. But I don't think it's going to sway what
about when the polls were saying the Conservatives were ahead by 20 points?
It's probably further than that. I guess we'll see in 3 weeks. This is probably the most important and most contentious election in Canadian history, and it's going to be interesting to watch. And everybody vote with their heart and their head.
Okay. All right, Chris, you check in.
Thanks,
be curious to have your fundamental research with somebody with their ear to the ground there. Good to hear from you today. Anne in Calgary. Hello, Anne.
Hi there.
Hi, Anne.
Hello. I haven't called in before, so this is new to me.
Okay, first-time caller. Yeah, we'll take it easy on you. Don't worry.
I appreciate it. I'm actually going to disagree with all of your previous callers that are saying
Go right ahead.
conservative.
Love it. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm
Let's
a
get
firm
the
believer
other
that
view.
I am a firm believer that if somebody tells you who they are, then you need to believe them. And I could never vote blue simply because this is a gentleman that focuses primarily on industries, on the different, being like somebody that does, and I'm blanking now because I've got me on the phone.
Okay, you're talking about Polyev, though, right? You're talking about Polyev.
Yes, I am.
Right.
Yeah, I
okay.
am.
Okay.
He focuses on the actual companies versus the people. I mean, he voted against raising our minimum wage federally. He voted against $10 a day daycare. He voted
Mm-hmm.
against increasing the child benefit. I mean, this is all on record.
Right.
If he's doing that now when he's not in power, what is he going to do when he is in power?
Okay.
And so this is also someone that's muzzled his caucus, his people, about talking about LGBTQ. So to me, that says you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, the deputy leader of the party is gay. Melissa Lantsman.
I agree.
Gay and
However,
married.
they're not to talk about it.
Well,
right?
I don't know if
So if you were
I don't
to
know.
challenge him on
I don't know
it
if I don't know if I got Melissa Lantsman on and talked about it. I don't know. I've interviewed her many times. I've never found her any issue to be off limits.
Fair enough, not for her, but he
Right.
gave the instruction. Don't talk about it.
Okay.
So are we doing don't talk, don't tell?
Okay. I've never heard of that. I think Mr. Pauly would rather fight on the economy than on social issues. I'll agree with you on that.
Which is fair.
Okay,
However,
because I think the conservatives feel they're not going to win on social issues. They can win on economic issues, though, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
agree with you.
I think if they are going to win, it would probably be on economic issues, simply because it'd be
on issues like childcare, for example. Do you think that explains why women voters might be breaking for the Liberals over the Conservatives?
I think that women voters might be breaking for Liberals simply because they're not threatening to take away rights. He wants to, basic on what I've read and what I've seen and so on and so forth, he wants to enact that abortion ban. Well, I'm sorry, but my body, my choice.
No,
right?
He's not. He has said that he is pro-choice and he doesn't want to litigate the matter at all. That's what he said. He doesn't want to have an abortion ban.
Though. He's flip-flopped.
He's flip-flopped?
He's flip-flopped. I mean, if we look at some of the stuff he was saying before this election campaign and we look at some of the stuff he's saying now, he's completely reversed course.
Okay.
So what is he going to do when he gets in power?
Okay. He's pro-choice. He has said on the record he's pro-choice and he doesn't want to reopen the abortion debate.
I sure hope so.
Okay.
I sure hope so.
But it's an issue though, right? It's an issue for women, right? Yeah, I could appreciate that. Look, we've got to run. I thank you for calling. Problem. Be a second-time caller,
you for having me.
please. Okay, bye-bye, Ann. Bye-bye. Got to run. 3 weeks to go. 3 weeks from today, as a matter of fact, is Election Day in Canada. Julie in Waterloo. Thanks for calling. Julie, you're on the air.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Julie. You're welcome.
Hi. I wanted to respond to your initial question about the gender gap.
Yeah.
And why the polls. I mean, I think that, I don't know that I put a lot of trust in the polls, but again, just like your other callers and talking to friends and colleagues, what I would say is that similar to what your last caller said, when people show you who they are, you need to believe them. And I think that when you really look at the issues and the policies, the blue Liberals are not that far away from the Conservatives in terms of what they're talking about, whether they're talking about GST rebates on first-time home buyers or construction infrastructure investment. I mean, they're talking about the same things. This is a leadership race.
Okay.
And, people say, and I think it's kind of negative, like Carney is the adult in the room. I voted Conservative my entire adult life, and I will 100% be voting for Mark Carney. If this is an election based on the economy, why wouldn't you want one of the lead economists of the world in the room? Why would you want a government official who's never held a job outside of government running the economy?
Okay.
And I think women see that. I think, I hate to say it because I don't, but like women are caregivers. And so women saw the benefit of $10 a day child care and pharmacare for their parents and dental care for their parents. And, I'm in that generation where I'm being squeezed by younger.
To be fair, pharmacare is barely rolled out. It covers two things right now, right? Diabetes and contraception, right? Yeah. Okay. That's it. That's all. I mean, they're provincial plans across the country that are covering, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of medications. So a long way to go yet with pharmacare. On childcare, is anybody getting childcare for $10 a day?
I can guarantee you that my daughter, who has 3 young children, was only able to go back to work. It was not $10 a day, but it went down significantly, like tenfold.
It's gone down.
She
right?
would not have been able to go back to work.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
And her family
dental
can't
care,
afford
dental
to-
care rolling out. I'll give you that. But you have voted conservative your entire life, and you've switched.
I have.
You've defected. You've defected.
Well, I haven't yet. There's still some time for somebody to screw up. The other thing that I think is really important.
Okay. Very quickly, like 15 seconds.
I think the Liberals need to talk about how they shut down the immigration problem. I think that's what a lot of young disenfranchised men are angry about.
Okay. All right. I was just thinking about it. Immigration really hasn't played a big issue yet in this election campaign, has it? That's a great point you raised. Julie, thank you.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
3 weeks from today, it'll all be over. This election will all be said and done. 2 weeks down, 3 weeks to go. What do you think of the campaign so far? And we've been talking about some of the trends according to the pollsters, although a lot of people have so far expressed that they don't have a lot of faith in the polls. But those polls do suggest that women prefer the Liberals over the Conservatives. We're asking what could be going on there. Why can't Poilievre get more women to vote for the Conservatives? And why are older Canadians, the Gen Xers, the boomer crowd, why are they saying they prefer the Liberals? What do you think might be happening there? 1-833-668-2577. And welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. Let's get it going. Allison, up first in Waterloo. Hello, Allison.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm good, Allison. Thanks for calling.
I'm calling
what do
from
you
the
think is
Waterloo
going on?
region as well, and I'm kind of one of those middle-aged women that you're talking about. So at this stage of my life, I am definitely a conservative. I spent the first 20 years as a Liberal and the last 20 as a conservative, and I'm just amazed at how many Liberal voting people are still willing to vote Liberal after the last 9 years, and all of the expenditures and money spent on things that are not necessary, and we're giving so much away that we have nothing left. We're a broke country, and we need to get that fixed. And I don't have faith at all that the Liberals can do that. And I feel like a lot of women probably look at Pierre as a little bit of a sarcastic guy. He's kind of a straight shooter, and not everybody likes that. He's very direct.
Okay.
I can put aside that sarcasm and just kind of see it for what it is. And it doesn't bother me at all, because I think we need more straight shooters in this country. I see Mark Carney as the more smooth-talking salesman who looks kind of polished on the outside. Yes, he's an investment guy, but he's also a shyster, and he's made some pretty interesting deals behind the scenes that if people investigated more, they would see more about him. He's not, I don't believe he's genuine. I think he's there for other reasons. So I don't have a lot of faith there.
What do you think his other reasons are?
Well, I think he's just got a whole other movement. I mean, the Liberals behind the scenes, it's the same group of Liberal people that are going to be behind the scenes. Maybe their positions have shifted, but I think they're going to continue to do what they've done all along. He did axe the tax, but that's kind of plagiarizing ideas that the Conservatives have been.
Well, that's pure
campaign.
political expediency. Yeah, not only have they axed the tax, the tax they supported for 6 or 7 years, but it's in the news. I pointed this out when this happened. People are going to get a rebate check as well on a tax they're not even paying anymore. Like a week before the election, a week before election day, like some people are going to get hundreds of dollars in the bank. So it's pretty good for them.
I don't trust it, and I know it looks shiny on the outside. It's not so polished when you get behind the scenes. And these same group of people are managing our money for the next how many years? They've been doing it for 9 years. Our country is running to the ground financially. So I certainly don't want to entrust them for another 4 years.
Gotcha. Okay, Allison, thank you for your call today. Peter out in Langley, British Columbia today. Hello, Peter.
Hello. listening to when you're reading off the polls there, I think that pretty much shows that it's an even race. You have one outlier. I think it was Abacus that was showing a 12-point lead.
Ipsos. Yeah, Ipsos has the big 12-point lead. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, it's an outlier, so you would, from a statistical point of view, would set that one aside, and the other ones are the points are so close. A politician could make a mistake today, the other one could say something really good, and boom, the polls will change on that. So
yeah, maybe.
In my mind, I think it's pretty much a dead even race. So for me, I'm looking at this, that I think Carney's big strength is that he's willing to shake up our U.S. relationship.
Okay. And
Poilievre is willing to shake up the economy. And what we really need is Carney doing foreign affairs and Poilievre doing internal affairs. That would be a good setup. And the reason I say that is that I think the Conservatives would be the ones that are going to. The Liberals. The problem with them is that they want us to believe and depend on the government to solve our problems, and the Conservatives, they want to continue and in fact even increase our dependency on the USA because they want to redo the deal, which I don't see a real point in. I mean, we talk about it, but I don't know how they can guarantee they're not just going to screw us later on again. So I'm not real keen on just making the deal and just putting things back to the way they have been for the last 80 years and making us even more dependent on the U.S. And I don't believe in the Liberals, carrying on with the same, stupid policy that Trudeau had. So I'm stuck. I don't know which way to go.
You're stuck. Okay. You're feeling stuck with 3 weeks to go. Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say, because, some of our panelists today said we're really not reporting on the number of people who have not made up their mind yet, which could be as many as 1 in 5 voters. 20% of the electorate hasn't made up their minds yet. Are you in that category? You're undecided? Are you among the undecided?
I am on the undecided. And you know what? Just hearing you say that, what would make me tilt towards the Liberals is if Carney said that he would promise to cancel the F-35 contract if he was elected. That would put me over. And
really?
The reason for that is the F-35 is a key indicator of us being tied to the U.S. in every way. And if he's willing to do that, that means he's willing to shake up the rest of the relationship. And I'm guessing that sovereignty is probably more important than the economy to me.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Good to hear from you. And just like that, hour number 2, Talkback. Rebecca in Calgary up next on the election campaign. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
Hi, Rebecca. Good to hear from you today. Share your thoughts.
Well, basically, I'm just calling to answer your question of why women. I'm a 38-year-old woman, entrepreneur in Calgary. I have kids, have a husband who works in oil and gas, and why I'm not voting for Pierre Poilievre. And yeah, the economy is incredibly important. And if Justin Trudeau was still running, I probably wouldn't be voting this election. But social issues are a big thing for me, and especially being a woman in the workforce. And Pierre Poilievre has basically voted against many bills that allow women to be within the workforce and who can live and earn income the way a man does.
So childcare, is that one?
Childcare, yeah. The first home savings account program, I'm actually a realtor in the city, and so lots of single women really depend on the first home savings account program. Childcare, the food programs at school, also
school food program, National School Food Program. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And even your comments to another woman about pharmacare, about it being either diabetes or basically
contraception.
That affects women.
Right. No, my point was it's barely rolled out. Like, let's not pretend we have some kind of national pharmacare program because we don't have anything like a national pharmacare program.
It's just more the idea of it, I think, is
right.
that
Okay.
can help women.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you view him and his voting history as being not in the interests of women, and that is why it's hurting him.
Yeah,
it's coming back to bite him, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that, Rebecca. Yeah. Thank you. Mark in Calgary is up next. Hi, Mark.
How's it going, Rob?
I'm fine, Mark. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
If I may, Rob, I just had like a message. One of your callers was talking about being stuck, not knowing who to vote for and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And all I got to say to that would be like, if you enjoyed the last 10 years, then vote Liberal. But if you are tired of what's been going on for 10 years and you want real change, I would vote Conservative. It's that easy. I think Pierre Poilievre has a very good campaign message. He's been standing for all these topics ever since he started. He's not flip-flopping at all. So I really believe that he's standing for Canadians, and he's going to truly make Canada better for living in and raising families and jobs and housing. I really do think he's got a powerful message there.
Okay. What about the previous caller's point? You know, that his voting history is hurting him with women. What about that?
I don't know about that. I mean, I know a lot of women in my life, and every woman that I've talked to, including my wife, they're all voting Conservative. So I don't know where that message has come from. And maybe it could be different for other women that I haven't spoken to. But as far as I know, I think Pierre Poilievre, I mean, his wife, if you look at his wife, for instance, she seems to be pretty happy with the way things are going. She fully supports his message. Unlike, where, I don't even know if this is relevant, but Trudeau's wife left him during his policies, and maybe there was something there. I don't know, but,
I don't know. I don't want to talk. I mean, look, I mean, when you're in the public like that, I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's tough on marriages. Being in politics, even being an MP, being away from your family, doing that whole thing. I mean, it's tough on marriages. It's
for
tough
sure,
on,
and that's
on
why
families.
I speak for the women that are in my bubble in life.
Yeah.
And for the ones that I know, they're voting Conservative, and they don't feel like there's anything wrong with the way Pierre Poilievre treats women. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of his policies with in regards to women, but from what I do know, I think it's pretty fair.
Okay.
I don't think.
So let me ask you this. For someone who makes no apologies, you're voting for the Conservatives.
I already voted. Yes.
Oh, okay? Already voted. Okay, so 3 weeks from today, we'll find out how it all turned out. How are you feeling about the way things are? Are you nervous at all, given everything that's going on?
I'm only nervous for one reason. Now, I know Carney had put through support to CBC, I believe it was, for he's donating more money to CBC.
Yeah, he's promised.
And I believe that's a concern. Money is a problem in politics, and I feel like where the money goes, usually, even if it was a Conservative paying money to these mainstream medias, I believe the polls would lean towards them. I do believe it's a bought and paid for poll system. I don't think it's fair. I honestly think it is that way because I myself have never been called for a poll, and I don't understand why that is or where they're getting their information. Right?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good to hear from you, Mark. Yep. Fair enough. Bye-bye. Annie is up next in Kitchener. Hello, Annie.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Annie.
I'm gonna let you know that I've never voted Liberal in my life, and I've never voted Conservative.
Okay.
And the vote for the NDP is a loss because we know they're at the bottom. So I have to make this choice. It's not necessarily about the party. It's got to be about the policies. Mm-hmm. And I believe also I stand strong with the women. But my biggest fear with Poilievre is he is going to turn our healthcare system into a two-tier health system. The nurses don't want it. Teachers don't want it. so I think we're looking at Carney now in a different not because he's a liberal, but I believe he has the strength. He stands up with charisma. He stands to fight for tariffs. And I don't see Poilievre strong in that atmosphere. And that is why I have to probably put my vote. And if it was my way, I would have I would have loved to run for this country, because what I would have done is I would have invited all those states like New York, Minnesota, California. If they want to join Canada, welcome.
Okay. But the only reason you're doing that, you're a switcher. You're a switcher, right?
I've never
the only reason you're doing that is because you view the New Democrats as a lost cause in this election.
Well, yeah, they're down to 14%. So you've got to.
Oh, lower than that. Yeah, lower than that.
Yeah, okay. So you don't. I've been NDP my whole life. Okay.
Right.
And you know, if they were up there, I would have voted NDP. I've always voted, but this time I've got to make sure Poilievre doesn't get in. I guess that's my reason.
You got to make sure Poilievre doesn't get in. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want him there. I will never be a conservative till the day I die.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, Annie. I appreciate the honesty, Annie. I really do. Thank you for your call. Andre up next, also calling from Kitchener today. Hi, Andre.
Sorry, I have to laugh. That last comment reminds me of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right. Okay.
But, I'm calling because, like I said, I still believe that I don't really know about conservative. I voted Liberal in the past, and I believe, like I said many times, that the last 9 years, we're not going to go there, but Cartier, he's been there for what, 7 years, right?
Well, I mean, he's no stranger to politics. He says he's not a politician, but I mean, he's been around politicians for a long, long time. I mean, let's face it. You know.
So how long he's been there with the Federals, with Trudeau?
Well, he's been an advisor for several years to the Liberal Party, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
but he's never been elected.
So my
do
point
anything.
is that with Poilievre, you know, I don't know the conservative, but I believe in Poilievre. And,
you do? Okay, all right.
He always defended the weakness that the Liberals was bringing Canada down, and that's why I believe that the conservative will a change help us. But the thing is that's why probably a lot of old people are scared to vote for him because of the change.
Okay. All right. Okay. That they would like the status quo. Want to maintain the status quo kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Andre. Fair enough. Thank you, Andre. Good to hear from you. I mean, just on the generational divide, David, you and I were actually discussing this over the weekend and why boomers might be breaking for the Liberals. Are the polls missing something? I do wonder. I've been giving that some more thought, just because so many callers have brought it up, the framing of the election, how the different generations get their information about the election. I know you had a conversation with Coletto about this, David Coletto from Abacus Data. Older people more likely to watch the evening news.
Yep. And like listen to the radio. Yep.
You know, the traditional 6 o'clock newscast, their local newscast, or the national news in the evening. I mean, younger Canadians under 35 are not doing that in great numbers anymore.
No, gosh, no.
I have to watch. I have to watch what's on the 6 o'clock news. Like, it's just not part of their day. Whereas for older generations, it's part of their routine.
Yeah,
older Canadians more likely than younger Canadians to be reading their local newspaper. I would suggest their local daily newspaper.
Yeah, definitely.
Whatever that happens to be.
Yep.
How they get their election coverage, TV news, print news, maybe Facebook to a certain extent. Older people like Facebook. That's as opposed to, say, other social media platforms. Then you have the under 35 crowd, and they're immersed in the whole online ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Which is YouTubers and TikTokers and podcasters, and I wonder about the role of all these little independent media outlets that we have now. And we shouldn't underestimate. Sure, David.
Well, it's just a lot of people. You know, if you can picture it, you've probably seen the thumbnails. It's a guy or a girl on the screen, and superimposed behind them is a headline of some kind.
Yeah.
And they're talking about the news in an on-demand format. And that's how people in my generation access all information. It's exclusively in an on-demand format. If it's not on demand, if you can't go to it, search it out, find it, watch it on your own time scale, it's not reaching us.
Right. Should not underestimate. I mean, there's an entire multicultural news industry in this country.
Huge.
That has tremendous influence over local communities. And for younger Canadians, but especially new Canadians, they may be exposed to this election campaign in ways that older Canadians simply aren't, because older Canadians are consuming their media in a more traditional way versus younger Canadians. I mean, a lot has been made about the size of the crowds at the Poilievre rallies. Edmonton is probably going to be an epic rally tonight. Harper's going to introduce Poilievre. There's a guy on social media, and he's showing this building, and it looks like a big warehouse. One of the things I noticed the other night, watching one of his rallies, is besides the people in the crowd, 50,000 people were watching on X. Dave? 50,000 people were watching on X. On Twitter.
That's a lot of people for a rally.
For a political rally.
That's a huge audience. Let's just be honest.
It doesn't mean, now look, it doesn't mean everyone liked what they heard. Maybe a few thousand of them weren't even in Canada. Maybe some of them were bots, but
maybe they're not even real people. You never know.
Maybe not even real people, yeah. But the number was 52,000 was the number of people watching. It said when I was doom scrolling through social media. Interesting how people get their information about the election and whether that's influencing the election. Be right back to Mary up next. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Hi, Mary. Hi.
I'm in the 55 plus category. These aren't my thoughts, but this is talking to females in Alberta.
Okay.
A lot of them are healthcare workers and teachers, and they will be voting Liberal. Why? Because of cutbacks in those two areas, the healthcare and the teachers. And they don't like Danielle Smith. They voted NDP in the provincial. And if you remember, it was a lot closer than any previous election, like 50-50. NDP won't get in, so they're going to vote Liberal. And I predict, unfortunately, for my thought, because I'm not, I'm concerned about Carney personally. I was right about Trump, and I didn't want him in either, but I unfortunately think that nobody cares about all the things the Liberals are doing with their copying Conservatives, all the money they've spent, the debt that we have, and nobody looks at revenue. They want all these wonderful programs. There was a lady who talked about childcare, and my generation, we worked hard and we paid for things. We didn't buy or expect things, and it's a different thought process. And one more point, the Conservatives, I know you said they're leaving Alberta. They're three couples I know have left, and they're finding other countries to live in. And I know one couple is going to leave. They're tired of fighting. If Carney gets in, they're going to leave. They told me, and they have a place in BC and Alberta, and they're going to do what a lot of Conservatives, I hear.
That's interesting.
Two in BC, one on the island. They're sick of all the poverty and all the things that this government has created, and they're done.
They're done.
So it's not a fact about separating; it's a fact about leaving.
Okay. All right, Mary. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your insight. Very interesting insights that you have there. Call back anytime. Brian in Calgary. Up next on Talkback. Hello, Brian.
Hello. I'm just calling in. I just want to give my 2 cents about all this election stuff, all the rhetoric that's being tossed around and whatnot. And I just want you to know that I am voting for Pierre Poilievre. I'm voting for the Conservatives, because I am so sick and tired of the 10 years of a Liberal government that has just been too big and too overreaching into our lives. And as far as I'm concerned, this government has done nothing but make knee-jerk decisions without putting any proper thought or any proper research and development into every single one. And that includes everything like the carbon tax, for example. Like, and if this Liberal government thinks they're fooling me by getting rid of the carbon tax that's no longer on gas or diesel or whatnot, they've got another thing coming. I'm not going to be lured into having my vote bought by the Liberals, you know?
Okay, I hear you. So look, there's 3 weeks to go. You have all of these polls that are showing the Liberals in the lead. Liberals favored with women, Liberals favored with people over 55. I mean, you sound pretty hardcore for the Conservatives. You're very disappointed in the Liberals. So, I mean, how are you feeling with 3 weeks to go? Do you think the Conservatives still have a shot here, or is
I think so, as long as Pierre Poilievre and his team, stays the course and basically puts the main focus on the economy. Like, I understand all the concerns of people who've been calling in, but what voters need to understand as well is that we're talking about a government that's going to represent all of Canada, all Canadians, on a fair and equal platform. In other words, when people go to cast their ballots, like I'm going to cast my ballot and vote for my candidate in my riding, I just want voters to for once in your life stop being a one-issue pony and think about and just basically think about the issues that are affecting the overwhelming majority of Canadians.
All right.
You take for example.
No, Brian, I've got to run, Brian, because I want to fit in one more call. But I appreciate your passion, sir. I really do, and I hope you'll call back again sometime, and we can continue our discussion. But we're going to jump to Robert in Cochrane today. Hi, Robert. You'll get the last word today, Robert.
Hey, how you doing there?
I'm good. Just great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Awesome. 100% agree with your last caller with the knee-jerk reactions from the Liberals.
Okay.
Very little thought going into any of their reactions. And we're not going to get anything different in the future. And I just want to say, do all these people forget the scandals that happened throughout the time of the Liberals in the last 10 years? The ArriveCan app cost $59 million. $12 million they can't even find. It was so poorly managed. They didn't even, the subcontractors they hired didn't even know what they were doing. It was a complete joke, the whole thing. Carbon tax has been $300 billion it's cost us. I own a small business, and my fuel bill has tripled. And it's costing many guys like me a lot of money for nothing. Where does that money go? The Liberal government isn't going to do anything different in the future. So these people, the young lady that called in, and she's a realtor in Calgary, well, you're not going to have to worry about selling houses because the economy is going to be terrible if these guys get in, especially in Western Canada.
Well, I think what's driving it right now is fear the economy is headed to the ditch no matter who wins because of the guy south of the border, Robert. Right? Okay, we'll have to wrap it up there. They're playing the music. Wow, great conversation today. Great one to start the week. We'll be back tomorrow, do it all over again. The latest breaking news is coming up next. This is News Radio.